Welcome everyone to CineHell. I think this week we're going to be calling this one CineTroughton because we are continuing our Doctor Who retrospective. But first, a little bit of news.
Oh, I have not heard this news, so...
There is some news. I showed a little bit to you. I showed you that there's a new trailer out. Get it while it's hot because they keep taking it down. But there's a new trailer out for Godzilla 2014, which I didn't even know was coming. I'm very happy to find out about that, and I'm very excited because the trailer really got me stoked. I mean, it doesn't seem very traditional Godzilla. I mean, he looks traditional, but didn't seem very traditional to the Toho Productions.
He does seem a little bit different. Like it's just a thing I noticed. Like he seemed a little bit smaller than usual, little stubbier.
Maybe, but I mean, you can actually work that into the Godzilla canon because there's multiple Godzillas out there.
It could also be maybe the angle they had it from. It looked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I like he's not the stupid American Godzilla that he was before.
Godzilla!
Oh god, that 98 Godzilla.
I did not see that one either.
That is a lot of fish. But that was one thing I heard. Then another thing, they have not, I don't think officially confirmed, but there's a pretty good chance that Elizabeth Olsen
yeah,
will be the Scarlet Witch in
Avengers 2.
Yeah.
I think Samuel L. Jackson is the one who accidentally released that information.
Yes.
Accidental or on purpose?
He also said, "I know we're shooting in London, that James Spader is Ultron, etc., etc."
Well, James Spader was announced weeks ago, I believe.
Yeah. So, well, he mentioned her basically in the same breath. So.
Yeah.
So we got that. And then, as far as Star Wars news, there actually hasn't been much, except that people are combining stuff and saying, yeah, everything's a rumor and nothing's really for sure, except that they are filming on 35mm. No digital filming for the next Star Wars.
Now that is interesting.
Yep, and he said he's going to do more practical effects if possible. So that's good. It's gonna feel a little bit more
like Episode 7.
Yeah, it's gonna be more physical, I think, and I like that.
Oh, that I like.
And then the last thing, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, but Stephen Moffat did an interview with one of my favorite YouTube contributors.
I did not watch that.
Yeah, the Nerd Cubed interview was fun. If anybody likes Nerd Cubed at all, who's listening to this, you should watch it. It's really good. He just Moffat on a couch with Nerd Cubed and some other guy that I'm sure I should know. I can't remember off the top of my head who it was. Shooting the shit about Doctor Who and discussing various things. They talk about the Weeping Angels a little bit and how Moffat doesn't intend to go back to them. They talk about how regenerations work. And part of that, they discuss that Moffat says that in universe they will be fully aware. Like they're not going to deny the fact that Capaldi has played other characters.
Oh, that's good.
He has a way of addressing it, which was set up originally by the previous showrunner.
Russell T Davies.
Yeah. Not only has Capaldi been a doctor after being a character in a previous episode, but so was Colin Baker. He was in an episode with, I believe, the Fifth Doctor prior to becoming the Doctor. I think actually the next year. Like, it was very close on. I think he actually played a villain.
That's pretty awesome.
So, yeah, that it's interesting some of the stuff they discussed. Some of it obviously is just for fun, just comedy stuff that they talked about, but some of it really is interesting and revealed a little bit. I don't want to go into the whole thing because anybody who's listening, you should really go and listen. Or watch really. I mean, it's just kind of fun. It's Nerd Cube's Nerd in Real Life or Dan in Real Life. I can't remember which channel. I'll link it to the description in our YouTube account.
Baker. He had guest starred as Commander Maxil on the Peter Davison serial Arc of Infinity.
Yeah, it was there. You go. It was Davison's. So yeah, it was. This is something cool that it's nice because they never acknowledged it with Baker, but
Well, they don't acknowledge it with the companions either.
Well, sometimes Clara.
Well, but a lot of them they kind of make a joke like Martha. Oh, I had a cousin.
Yeah, that actually brings up something. There is a bit of a connection. Capaldi was also in Torchwood. That's his other place. They have been working. They have always tried hard to keep the Torchwood and Who universes the same.
Kind of separate. Separate but the same at the same time.
Yeah, they want continuity between them, but they want them separate in like tone and story arc. But so what you get, like the woman who plays Toshiko, she's in both, and in Doctor Who she's like this surgeon or something, and in Torchwood obviously she's not. She's a techie. So their explanation was that she was there undercover in Doctor Who, and that's actually part of Torchwood canon. So they're going to keep up the fact that Capaldi was in Torchwood, in one of the Torchwood miniseries. I'm just saying a lot today. I apologize. So I think that's about all of the major news. I mean, little bits of stuff popped up about various things, but nothing stupendous, and nothing horribly huge letdown like the teaser, quote unquote, for Doctor Who, which was a grand total of a date in gold in the Doctor Who font.
Yeah, that was just kind of.
Yeah. Oh, and I did find out where they put that up in America. They attached it to the Better Know a Doctor, or whatever they're calling it, that they do for each of the Doctors. They attached it to the one for the Ninth Doctor.
Oh, I know what they call it.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. It doesn't really matter. Everybody who knows Doctor Who probably knows about it because they've got BBC America. Or if they're in England, I'm sure we have no English listeners. They would actually have BBC One. So, let's get into.
Well, I do have one cool thing, but
it's
not like it's slightly Doctor Who related. Being in the Dallas area, we have 3 conventions per year. I don't know why. And there's Fan Days, the Sci-Fi Expo, and we actually have a Comic-Con. And today actually marks the beginning of Fan Days, which is going to be today, tomorrow, and Sunday. Mm-hmm. John Barrowman, people. Jack Harkness himself is going to be there. I am excited. I'm especially looking forward to his Q&A. He's going to do that on Sunday. I'm going. Maybe he'll have spoilers. Maybe he can shed a little light. Don't know.
We're hoping.
But it turns out he's actually doing a surprise appearance today, but I am not going.
Yeah. Well, because you're recording a podcast.
That, and we have to finish our costumes tonight, because we are going to be Daleks. Not me and Joey, but me and a different friend are going to be Daleks tomorrow.
Yes, I don't make a good Dalek.
I don't think you would.
No, I want to be the War Chief.
Oh, that facial hair.
That facial hair. I can grow that facial hair. I like that hair.
Alright, so, CineTroughton.
CineTroughton. Yeah, I think the War Chief's a good launch into that. We've watched 2 episodes of Patrick Troughton's run completely, and then little bits and pieces of others. I've seen several others because Troughton's one of my favorite doctors. I put him in my top 2. I don't know if Janice, did you have a chance to see any others, or were you only able to cut in for the 2 outrageously long episodes that we chose?
Well, we did just watch
Yeah, we're literally right off of finishing watching the
Yes,
War
and
Games.
that was an incredible finish.
It was. But did you got to see Patrick Troughton's arrival
Mm-hmm.
as the
And I got
first
to see
Doctor
his departure.
and his departure, and I'm gonna try and keep up that trend with all the Doctors. Um, One thing that I want to warn people: the first episode is a Dalek episode, and unfortunately, it's mostly lost to time. We have
Mm-hmm.
the audio and we have stills, and most of what we watched was still images transposed with the audio. So it was still fun. It was amazing, and I really, really wish we'd had a chance to see in full motion because some of that stuff was just amazing, and you could tell that for all that budget that they didn't throw away on the Cybermen in the because they're actually in the same season. Uh, Hartnell's departure and Troughton's arrival are actually back to back in the same season. Dead center of the season almost. Right after those cheapo Cybermen, we get this great high budget story about Daleks on a outpost or military base. Can't remember. Somewhere on a planet called like Vulcan or Satan
We're
or
in
something
Star
like
Trek
that.
now.
That's actually interesting. They do mention the planet Vulcan in Doctor Who a couple times. It is a canonical planet there, and they came up with the planet Vulcan, or they produced the planet Vulcan. They put it out there on the airwaves 6 weeks before the first episode of Star Trek aired.
Hmm.
So yeah, Doctor Who got to Vulcan first.
That's pretty cool.
It is. So we saw him fight the Daleks. We didn't get a chance to see him fight the Ice Warriors, which is the big bad. You know, the new arrival, the special new arrival during Troughton's period is the Ice Warriors. They're one of the major recurring villains that he first encounters. And we didn't really get a chance to see much of them. We did watch a clip with them, but we had a lot of scheduling conflicts. It just made it very limited.
Yeah.
And then the War Games being 5 hours long.
Yes, and we watched all of it.
Yes, and it's worth it. The War Games.
It is. It was very good.
So I think that's what we should spend the most time on because that's what they spent the most time on. But first, I do want to say the Daleks looked amazing. The introduction of the kind of green goopiness of the Daleks started, I believe, with that episode. You know, the kind of goop in a box that they are was very much introduced there. But you can see something that Janice you missed during Hartnell. Daleks have to use some sort of like maglev sort of method of siphoning static electricity from lines along the ground. And again, I wish we'd been able to see them because they actually have like Daleks walking around with spools or rolling around with spools, spooling out wire for them to roll over so that they can get that energy. And I thought that was cool. It's definitely a long way to the Daleks that we see following the Time War. So it's interesting. He did have other run-ins with the Cybermen. They return in Tomb of the Cybermen, which I have watched, and is very good, very fun. You can see some little in-jokes if you know to look for them. Stuff that there was a bit of sexual tension intended between Troughton's primary companion, Jamie McClellan, or McCremon, I can't remember. McCremon, yeah, thank you. A Scottish Highlander from the 1700s.
Who wears a kilt.
Yes, he does. He rocks that kilt. And he's a great guy. You see him at a lot of those fan days and Doctor Who conventions. I don't know if he's still alive, but he was at those for a long time. I think he's still alive as well. He and Troughton got along famously, and they like to put a little bit of sexual tension. They like to stir things up and put a little bit of homoerotic sexual tension into stuff. And so you do see that the most notable event of it is in Tomb of the Cybermen, where they're like walking into the tomb and everybody's kind of scared of walking into the Cybermen's tomb because they've all heard the legends of the Cybermen because it's sometimes set in the distant future, and they've heard legends of these powerful killing machines called the Cybermen. And as they're about to enter the tomb, I can't remember which female companion they have at the time, but they both try and take her hand and end up holding each other's hand as they walk in. And it's one of the more memorable scenes of the Doctor and Jamie holding hands daintily as they shuffle into the tomb. A little in-jokes like that I just love looking for now that I know to look for them, and it's pretty fun. But I'm talking and talking and talking about stuff that Janice hasn't seen, so let's move on to the War Games.
And on a side note, the person who played Jamie McCrimmon, Fraser Hines, is still alive.
Okay.
He is actually, I don't know if he has bowel cancer, unfortunately. He said in July 2010 he had been battling it for 11 years. And he's been given the medical all clear.
Well, that's good.
But again, and he's going strong. He's doing audio dramas and still playing Jamie.
Sweet. Yeah. Like I said, he's an awesome guy. If anybody out there ever gets a chance to meet him, he's really cool. And if you haven't seen episodes with him, watch them.
They are quite good.
There aren't very many Troughton episodes out there. They got really badly hit by the burning times. But
yes, unfortunately.
They are really, really good. Yeah, I honestly do think this is one of the best Doctor eras. So, the War Games. I think we just finished this one. It's fresh on our minds, and it's very important to the Doctor Who mythos. So I think we should cover this one in a little bit more detail. Because the one with the even his first arrival, while important in that he just regenerated, it wasn't a huge deal because it's just another Dalek story. In the end, the Doctor defeats the Daleks and off he goes to save another world. But in the War Games, that changes everything because up until now, the Doctor has simply been a daft old alien with a box, and now all of a sudden, he's a daft old Time Lord with a box. When they named the species.
Yes. And you said it was the first appearance?
It's the first appearance of
the sonic screwdriver.
It's the first major use. He uses it as like a demonstration in a previous episode, but it's only for like 5 seconds. And it is also with Troughton. He starts with a sonic screwdriver, which, as Janice, you pointed out, it looks like one of those little pen lights.
It does. With a magnet.
And what does it do? It unscrews things. That's all it can do.
Pretty much.
Yeah, this is before the sonic screwdriver became a wiggle it around the room and then look at it to solve problems machine.
Which I don't quite understand how that works, but hey.
Yeah, I've never seen a display on it, so I'm not sure what he's looking at. But I don't know. I don't have one. I need to get one. Could really use it sometimes. So, the War Games, for anybody who hasn't watched it, go watch it. I'm going to spoil it, and Janice, I assume, is also going to throw out spoilers about all of the awesomeness. So, you should watch it. We're going to spoil the crap out of this thing. So, really,
but
if you have any desire at all, watch it.
It has been out for, almost 50 years, so...
Yeah, I'm not going to feel bad if you get
a
horrible spoiler. Yeah. So, the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe, who is the final companion that he picks up during his tenure, arrives at... I don't think they ever named the planet. At first, they think it's Earth.
Yeah, because I thought it was Earth.
Mm-hmm. And the audience is meant to for a long time. They arrive in what appears to be World War I. first they get captured by the English, or yeah, by the English troops. Then they get captured by the Germans. They bump into the French troops. They're all over the place. And the only hint we get that anything's a little weird is that the first English person that they come across, this colonel or something like that, he's got a little bit of confusion. He can't remember how he reached them. He just remembers a gray mist.
Yep.
And then, so that's about it until right near the end of the episode when Commander Sideburns goes into his office. And really, I have no idea what his name was. He's Commander Sideburns. That's all I can remember about him, is these huge mutton chops.
I love that name.
So Commander Sideburns goes into his office and reaches over to a framed picture of the king. Opens.
I thought it was a queen.
Oh, it might have been the king. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of these machines.
Yes.
One of them could have been a different king. But he pulls away the picture to reveal a machine hidden underneath, which looks like a 1950s television.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the greatest technology, even I think by 1960s standards. But it works. He pulls it out and he makes some sort of report, and then he uses his glasses in a way that's never explained to hypnotize people.
It's just he puts them on, he talks, and it's like all of a sudden you're under his control, and it's weird. Or then there's the helmet.
Yeah, we'll get to that because there's quite a few pieces of technology they don't really go into, but are very interesting. So right now they're bouncing around, basically being captured by one person after another. First they get captured by the English, then they get captured by the Germans, and finally they've had enough and they drive into a mist because the Doctor's starting to put two and two together after being shot at and running around for about an hour and a half. And they bop through this mist, and all of a sudden they're under attack by Romans. And
some of them were horribly out of shape.
Yeah, the extras that they had in this episode were not the best. And I'm pretty sure...
Oh, the costuming was pretty hilarious, too.
I'm pretty sure some of those overweight Romans became overweight space guards later on.
Yes.
So we see them go in. They're going from basically time zone to time zone, slowly piecing together what's going on. And they come across a machine which materializes with a sound very similar to the TARDIS's.
Well, TARDIS, I assume there hasn't been one up until this point.
Apostrophe S as in possessive.
Ah, of course.
Yes. So they go, well, what's going on here? And skipping ahead through a lot of adventures, they essentially pick up a band of misfits from all the different time zones, all of which seem to be a period of warfare in Earth's history, but all of which seem to be separated by this mist. They were able to obtain a map, so they're sort of bopping around, meeting up with these people who are kind of aware that something's not right.
I mean, there's everybody. We've got, like, Americans from the Civil War. We've got people from...
I remember the Russo-Japanese War.
Russo-Japanese War. There was a Greek War. Obviously, we had the Romans.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember Jamie's War, the 1700 one.
Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, it was the Highlanders versus...
The Highlanders versus the Redcoats, yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically, you name a major world war, it's there.
Yeah, well, except for World War II. They said that they...
I didn't mean like a literal... I didn't mean like a literal world war. But,
well, yeah. But what I mean is they did stipulate that they couldn't accept any technology newer than 1917, or those humans might have the technology to defeat them.
Oh, that's true.
So I don't know why that was. It seemed like their technology was plenty advanced, especially in the
field those cardboard guns were...
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
They were highly advanced in the fields of cardboard guns and goofy glasses.
The cardboard guns, it was like a long, thin black box with like white squares around it that apparently like you shot it and they just killed you. Like you just dropped down dead.
And it wasn't like it was a projectile weapon. It seemed like it was area of effect because the entire screen would get this oscillating psychedelic pattern across it.
Yep.
So, and they made the most obnoxious noise. I could barely stand it. That's the only thing I've said
Yeah.
about this episode is that obnoxious noise. So,
And the alarms didn't bother you at all.
actually, not as bad. Not as bad as those guns because they shot the guns a lot more. Um, so one of the things that we were we were rolling when we saw
Pretty
this.
much.
They got to the aliens because obviously they're aliens. You know, they're using strange alien technology. They have to be aliens. So they look just like us, except goofy sideburns on everybody,
Yes.
and gimp suits on the guards.
Who were also quite out of shape and should not have been wearing them.
Yeah. And I think my favorite part was those glasses, the visor glasses.
Yes! Some of them had like little plus signs, some of them had like little slots, and they kept having to take them off to be able to see, and it's like, what was the point of it?
And for people who haven't seen the episode, it's not like Geordie LaForge visor. Like,
No.
it's not nothing sleek like that. Although there was one with
It
a Geordie
looks,
LaForge
it looks
pattern.
like a piece of paper.
A big piece of paper
Yes.
folded around like half their head that sits on top of their nose and covers up to their hairline with little cutouts in it in different shapes. And it's hilarious. And
Speaking of hairlines, that one guy who scared me because, okay, I understand hairlines and guys, I know they recede, but this one guy, it wasn't like a normal hairline. It hadn't receded back to where he had that little perfect, semicircle in the back. It was like in the middle of his head. It just, it made his forehead look really long and really misshapen, and he scared me.
I know they had some odd choices early on.
Basically, if you're unfortunate like me and you went and saw the Green Lantern, the evil dude with the lumpy, misshapen head, that's kind of what he looks like.
I didn't think it was that bad, but then as a guy, I'm used to receding hairlines. I fear it every day of my life. So, I really, I'm gonna try and find some pictures of these stupid visors because those things, I'm gonna have to post those. They're worth seeing. It feels like they were basically introducing these absurdly oversized visors and wraparound bodysuits as a way of reusing the same overweight Centurions as overweight space-aged guards.
Which is probably why they had masks covering their face, so you couldn't tell.
Oh, yeah. So, actually, one thing I noticed that I didn't notice before, that same Englishman who fought with Jamie at one point and then becomes like a member of the Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
He's also an Englishman he's also the Englishman that shoots at Jamie at the very end of the episode.
Oh.
So I guess they transported them both back where they could go kill each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were such good friends too. Well, time to stab you with my sword.
Pretty much.
So, crazy visors. I love the plus sign on the doctor. I love the little plus sign visor. Could not take him seriously for a second, especially when he had to scoot the visor up and put on a pair of actual glasses to see what he was doing. And then, of course, their controls, which we were laughing about the entire time as well, appear to be refrigerator magnets for the Catan.
Pretty much.
For the board game Catan, no less. Everything's hexagons.
No, some of them were like crescent moons and rectangles.
That's true. There were a few. Apparently, if you move these around on a completely blank surface, you change up the controls.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a little confusing there. And then, I'm trying to think what other technologies. Obviously, there was the mind control machine, or not the mind control machine.
The glasses.
The mind reading machines.
No, it was
the glasses. Yeah, the glasses
or mind control.
Were like reinforced mind control, but
which is weird because they just look like Coke bottle glasses.
Yeah, and the warlord was wearing those. The leader of the aliens was wearing those. He was wearing like Coke bottles, but they didn't seem to be doing the same thing.
It's because you know who he is.
Yes, he's Steve Jobs.
He is Steve Jobs.
He looks just like him.
I
Um,
mean, it really is no insult to Steve Jobs' memory, but if you put a picture of Steve Jobs next to this guy,
they look a lot alike.
they look alike. Maybe the facial hair is different, but it's seriously.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this guy needed a shave. But
Uh,
there was another set of glasses that they wore, or the one guy wore, some interrogator guy, like security chief maybe, something like that. He had the most ridiculous visor thing. It was about 2 feet long and hung off the front of his face. And it was like it flipped up and down on his hard hat that he wore.
it looked like a duck bill
It really did look like a duck bill.
with a monocle at the end.
Yeah, exactly. It looked like either a duckbill or one of those things that you had back in the 80s where you flip the lever and it would spin a little disc of pictures around so you could look at the different pictures.
Yes.
It was like one of those, and he stood in a room with the coolest wallpaper, this awesome
Oh, it was
hypnotizing.
psychedelic.
Yes, it was awesome.
Maybe that's why they had the wallpaper.
I'm thinking. Or
I
just
mean, why
to
else would you
remind
have
them-
something that psychedelic?
Either that or to remind them this is where we do mind control. Oh, right. I forgot.
Or,
what
you know, hey, it's mid-60s.
Yeah, it's mid-60s. Maybe we just like it this way.
Yes. Probably looks a
You
lot
wanna
better
know
in
that-
color.
You want another hit, man? Yeah, in color, it's like puke green and neon pink.
Oh, God.
So, I'm sure it's not. So,
I'm sure it's a lovely psychedelic wall.
oh, I'm sure. Speaking of their walls, for a military installation, everything is paper thin and the majority of it is clear.
Oh, it's like wax paper.
It really is, a lot of it.
Like, it's thin and it's, like, almost transparent, but not quite. It's wax paper.
Except for the what appear to be particle board walls around the interrogation chamber and the prison cells, which somebody actually just reaches over and pulls a human-sized panel off the wall.
Pretty much.
Like it's no big thing. And the panel he lifts off the wall is to the prison cell. Good security in your military installation, guys.
Yeah?
Top
notch.
The single hallway that has the tanning bed walls.
If you've seen Star Wars, they look like TIE fighters.
They do look like Darth Vader's TIE fighter wings.
Yes.
So
only clear.
Yeah, only clear and full of holes. And people hide behind them.
And nobody sees them. So they're great to hide in.
Yeah. So either that or these people really can't see crap through their visors. It's just such an oddball episode, but it's so much fun, especially once you're introduced to the first leader of the bad guys, the war chief.
Yes.
Now we were talking about Steve Jobs' warlord earlier. That's a different guy.
There's like 3 levels. There's the first dude with the glasses, there's the war chief, and then there's the warlord.
And it felt like the first dude with the glasses, we just sort of forgot about him. After
yeah, he kind of just disappears.
He's a controller or something like that. I think they call.
No, he dies.
Does he die? There's more than one because there's also the
No.
Scarface.
It was when towards the end when the warlord Steve Jobs, who was Steve Jobs, the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Jobs got a hold of the gun, and I was asking, is it because he touched the thing, or did he get shot? And you're like, no, he got shot when he touched the thing.
Oh no, that was the security guy who touched the thing.
Oh.
And then got shot by the warlord.
Then I don't know.
Oh no, actually, I think it was the war chief. I can't remember. Somebody shot somebody, but
we don't know who.
There's a lot of shooting in this episode.
There's a lot of people to remember.
There are. Well, it's 5 hours. Lord of the Rings wishes it was this epic.
And the thing is, there really are a lot of people introduced. There's over, I want to say, 24 characters.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really hard to keep track of who's who after a while.
But they do a pretty good job of making you invest in a lot of them.
Like Steve Jobs.
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, yes. So the very first thing we're dealing with are these guys on the ground. They're controlling the human troops with their magic Coke bottles and or monocles.
Yes.
Scarface had a monocle.
Which it's kind of funny because the one dude has glasses, but the guy with the monocle, you'd think, no, his weren't as effective. No, they're apparently just as effective.
Yep, just as effective. I guess they're just doubling up, but those humans are so easily controlled.
Yeah.
Glad I'm not one. So, after they deal with those guys for a while, before they stumble across the security guy, and then they deal with him for a while, and then along comes the war chief,
I love the war chief.
who has the most awesome mustache and sideburn combination,
He really does.
or rather, sideburn and lip sideburn
As I
combination.
call them.
Yeah, because the mustache there's nothing in the middle. He just
No,
like
it's just
shaved
it's
the
just
middle.
on the sides. It is
Yeah.
purely on the sides.
And then
Sideburns.
like the sawtooth pattern on his actual sideburns. It's awesome. I really wanted. I kind of want that hairstyle.
Not to mention his awesome bling.
Oh God, yeah. I don't know what the heck that thing
Giant
was, but I
square
want it.
pendant.
You know, Flava Flav wishes.
Yes.
It was something. But all in all, he actually kind of struck a pretty imposing figure.
Yes.
Despite all of it, and actually, I think even benefited from the facial hair, because he did look very villainous.
Yeah. More villainous than the War Lord because I couldn't take him seriously
Yeah.
after the Steve Jobs connection.
Well, I never could take him seriously. He just sort of doesn't do much. He doesn't seem as threatening. The Warlord is the leader of the aliens, but he's the one who reveals that the War Chief is not a member of their species. The War Chief is a member of a new species that we had never heard of before. Time Lords.
But you will hear it a lot more.
Da 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 da. Yeah, you will hear it quite a bit more.
Only for the next 50 years or so after this episode.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah, no
that's
big
not
deal.
that long.
I know.
You can deal with it.
Yeah.
They have the secret to time travel, and that's very important to this alien race that the Warlord is a part of. So he's got this war chief who apparently is a runaway from the Time Lords, helping him out and controlling this experiment with the humans, which in some way that I didn't really understand or catch, would allow him to conquer the galaxy. I guess it was,
by conquering Earth, you conquer the galaxy, apparently.
I think he was trying to create the ultimate soldier through learning their strategies or something. I'm not really sure, but
it's never really clarified.
No, if it was, we were laughing over it.
Yeah.
Long story short, too late. They get through quite a bit of activity in which the Doctor at one point even betrays his friends, or appears to betray his friends, by joining the War Chief in helping these aliens, because they are fellow Time Lords. Now, obviously, this is a fake out, and the Doctor uses a mind control device, which was used on the humans originally, to undo all of it and, I guess, prevent it from ever happening again to them. Thus, basically bringing a huge army of humans from various time periods into the alien facility to try and take it over.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, shit gets real. There's a lot of fighting, and the Doctor is forced to step up his timetables of rescuing everybody, and he needs to use the time machines that the War Chief has. But the War Chief has fiddled. And unlike the Doctor, whose fiddling will just turn his TARDIS into a banana temporarily. And yes, that actually happens.
Weird things happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen in this episode, but that is something that the Doctor does. At one point, he turns his TARDIS into a banana. The War Chief manipulated the controls and burnt out the time travel engines. He doesn't have enough machines to transport all of the humans back to their appropriate times.
So the Doctor has to call on the other Time Lords to help.
And that's, I think this is the first time I ever see the Doctor use a lot of his telepathic and telekinetic abilities.
But then he doesn't explain why he says, I ran away, but they never say why.
Well, he says he got bored, but that's not really much of an explanation.
That's kind of a dancing around the issue.
Yeah. And then the very last episode, which I love, I thought this was a great way to wrap it up while keeping it still in the War Games, is the trial.
of both the warlords and the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the war chiefs. We know that the war chief has to be gotten captured because he didn't have a way of escaping. So obviously the Time Lord's got the war chief, but the Doctor is the only Time Lord that we see on trial.
Was he? Yeah.
So the warlord, he gets sentenced, and I asked you this, and I'd love to hear our audience's opinion. So comment. What do you think? What they do with the warlord is they go, "You have been a piece of shit and killed a lot of dudes, and while we don't give a damn about humans, it's still not nice. You're stepping on ants, and that's not nice. So we're going to disintegrate you and all of your soldiers, and then we're going to wrap the rest of your planet in a force field for all of time."
No big deal.
No big deal. Yeah. But here's my question. Now that the Time Wars happened, by the 50th anniversary, the Time Wars long since happened, is that force field still there, or did it go away along with Gallifrey?
I did some research while we were watching the episode,
Mm-hmm.
and the warlord does come back.
The warlord or the war
No.
chief?
I believe it's the I don't know. I forget now. But one of them comes back during the Seventh Doctor's time.
Cool. I'd
I
like
think
to see that.
I think it's the war chief, actually, now that I think about it.
And that actually brings me to the war chief, because there is something I wanted to mention. There is a fan theory. Now, this has never been validated, and personally, I don't want it to be validated, but there is a fan theory that the monk, the war chief, and the master are all the same Time Lord with different names.
It would make sense.
It would make sense, but I don't want to think of the Master as a time meddler, because he doesn't seem like he's trying to change events to his desire. The Master always seems to be, doing other things that are more directly beneficial to him.
I'm sorry, it is the war chief who comes back
Okay, so it is the
in
Time
the
Lord.
Seventh Doctor, and he works with the Nazis.
Well, that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to have to find that episode. What's the name of that episode?
It doesn't say. It just says he works during the...
Darn, I'll have to dig it up.
A lot of this is prose, actually.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. I'll dig it up after our podcast. So we've now actually seen the first two Time Lords, other than the Doctor, on television. The monk and the war chief, very different characters. So I don't like to think of them as the same person. Even though they do, you can shift personalities with your transformation. I don't know. I think that they should be individuals, and I would really like to see that the monk comes back at some point.
I think he does. If I remember correctly.
Obviously, I'm not a complete expert on Classic Who. I've seen a lot of episodes, but there are hundreds, and I haven't seen them all.
There's a wiki. That's how I know.
Yeah. So, speaking of Time Lords, when the Doctor gets captured, he gets put on trial. And there's various shenanigans to pad out the episode. But essentially, the Time Lords say, yeah, we're not letting you pull this shit anymore. Time Lord Society says no interference, and you do nothing but interfere. You are as bad as the Time Meddler. So, we're going to exile you.
Yes.
And we're going to change you. So there's your next regeneration. Or, this is interesting, it's also considered the first regeneration. I found this out after our last podcast. There's the first regeneration, the Hartnell to Troughton, is actually referred to as a rejuvenation. Instead of just regenerating like a doctor normally would, he used the power of the TARDIS to rejuvenate to an earlier period in his own life. So it's iffy. Some people still consider that a regeneration. Some people do consider that a rejuvenation, and that could be a good escape for the fact that if if Hurt is in fact the actual Ninth Doctor,
That would make sense.
that would be the only way for the Doctor to have another regeneration.
I think at one point Stephen Moffat did say, yes, the Doctor was originally supposed to have X amount of regenerations, basically 12.
12, yeah.
I think he did say at one point we've kind of thrown that out the window.
Yeah, well, he's what he said was, we know that the Doctor is supposed to have 12 regenerations, and we're not going to forget about it. But we're not going to stop the show just because we got a 13th actor on board.
I mean, it also kind of makes you wonder, River Song gave up her Time Lord powers for the Doctor.
She didn't give up her powers. She just gave up her
regenerations.
Her regenerations. The rest of her Time Lord powers are intact. Her comprehension of Gallifreyan and all languages. Her ability to pilot the TARDIS. Potentially psychic connections, like her ability to drop into the dream state. That should all still be there.
So it kind of makes you wonder, does he have River's regenerations?
That's possible.
That's something I wonder.
And are all those regenerations buxom?
The next series of Doctor Who, the female.
Yeah, seriously. That's actually something that I was talking earlier about the Nerd Cubed interview, and Moffat says in that, if I remember correctly, he says that he doesn't have any problem with there being female. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been tons of speculation about.
But it is very important to remember that if they pick a doctor as a woman or as a black man or something, it's not going to be because they're a black guy. They're not just going to be like Will Smith. We need a black guy. They're not going to do that. They're going to pick an actor or actress who fits the part, and they're not.
Yes.
And it's going to be more about their acting ability and their character than it is going to be about their gender or race. But we're getting a little off topic. Getting back to Troughton's departure.
It was a very good one.
It was a very good one. I think the weird regeneration at the end was very trippy but cool. I like that the Time Lords do acknowledge his argument that all of the monsters that he has fought are evidence that he needs to continue fighting. And so instead of destroying him, they accept his argument, but exile him to Earth.
Yep.
Now I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to skip ahead about 20 years.
Oh.
The Two Doctors is Troughton's last Doctor Who.
The Two Doctors or the Three?
The Two Doctors. The Three Doctors is coming up pretty soon, but the Two Doctors is actually with him and Colin Baker. The Sixth Doctor. And number 6 and number 2 meet up, and unlike previous multi-Doctor specials, Troughton's hair isn't black, it's gray.
So he aged.
He aged. Now naturally you could just see this as, oh well, we didn't think about it when we were filming it, kind of mistake. But there's a fan theory out there that's been out there for going on 25 years now, I think, saying no. The Doctor did age. It's not a mistake. It's not a production mistake, like the Castro wheels that you could see in a couple of the shots of the episode that we saw.
It's true.
It's intentional, and this brings up what's called the Season 6B theory. Season 6 was the season that has the War Games and is the last season with Troughton. The Season 6B theory is that the Time Lords, acknowledging the Doctor's argument that he has a part to play and that he shouldn't be destroyed, they accept his argument and take him prisoner, and then at some point during those cuts interject a period where they send him on missions, because there's all these cuts between him being forced to regenerate and stuff. There's an argument that they send him on several missions, perhaps for a very long time, maybe even hundreds of years, going about doing the business of the Time Lords. And that is why he has gray hair, because he's gotten old, doing missions for the Time Lords which are never aired, but that are fulfilling what they consider his duty. before they exile him to Earth with a new face. So, what do you think of that? I don't know.
I
Personally,
had
I'm kind of
actually
iffy.
never heard that.
I'm kind of iffy on it myself. I've never
It
just.
does. It does kind of sound cool. I mean, the
It's.
possibility of this is the punishment that he was given, or was he, sent off with the threat of the punishment?
I like it more. A lot of them. There's various versions of the theory because it is a fan theory. But
Yes,
I think my favorite is that the Time Lords basically they bind him to certain tasks.
it's possible.
Like they did say that they were going to take away his knowledge of the TARDIS, his understanding of the TARDIS. So being able to, essentially they're taking away his ability to travel through time and space. So maybe they could just drop him in places and say do stuff.
Oh, here's an interesting tidbit for you.
Hmm.
It was a comic.
Oh yeah. It did spawn spin-off material.
Yeah,
Although
because
I don't
there
know
was
the
a
canon.
6-month gap between the War Games and the Spearhead, not wanting to stop publication of their Doctor Who comic strip Polystyle, which I guess it's a publication, kept on publishing stories featuring the Second Doctor. In the stories, the Doctor has indeed been exiled to Earth, but was awaiting his Time Lord imposed regeneration. It says, for a time, the Second Doctor lived the high life as a celebrity in London, traveled to Earth, responding to calls via the Carlton Grange switchboard. Yeah,
That's kind of cool. I don't know how canonical any of that material is though. That's my
probably
big
not.
problem with there's so much out there from Big Finish and various comics, and how much of it is canonical of Doctor Who. I mean, how much of even the show is canonical at this point after 50 years? I mean,
Probably not. They're making it up as they go.
yeah, a lot of it is. But Moffat is very knowledgeable about his subject. So I hope that he's going to be loyal to the material. And we're coming up on the end of our hour, but
Yep.
I just wanted to thank everyone. Say, watch Patrick Troughton's episodes. Like I said,
They're good. While William Hartnell was kind of the stoic older man, Troughton brings a sense of playfulness, even though he does. A lot of times I wanted to call him the grumpy grandpa, because there were a few times where I thought he was legitimately going to throw a hissy fit.
yeah, he
But
gets
he looks
grumpy.
so funny.
He
He's
has temper
adorable.
tantrums. I think that's one of the things I like about this
He's
doctor.
he's adorable, and he's got a sense of humor, and it's fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. The bow tie, tails,
Yes.
everything's old and ratty about him. Um, really, he feels like the space hobo of the doctors. Um,
And he is.
where Matt Smith pulls off that bow tie and he makes bow ties cool again. Troughton just looked silly, and that's exactly the point. He was disarming in that way, and that helped him many times to fool throughout his episodes. He fools his enemies several times into thinking he's not very good at what he does because he's always bumbling, he's always screaming. When I'd say run, 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 and he's basically being a space hobo who doesn't seem like he could do anything, and then all of a sudden he'll just whip up a solution which solves the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're not going to see that again. Uh, I mean, Matt Smith kind of has it, but that's a long ways off because
Yeah.
coming up next is Dr. James Bond Who.
Dr. James Bond who?
Yes. Pertwee will introduce a very James Bond feel to the Doctor, and he will be trapped on Earth.
Well, he has to be. They just sentenced him to...
So, next time, everybody, look forward. We're going to be talking about Pertwee. We're definitely going to cover his appearance on Earth with, again, another very memorable alien. I don't know, Janice, if you know what the menace of Spearhead from Space, which is his
I don't.
first episode is. Okay, we will keep that as a little bit of a secret then, because it is worth seeing. It's their first appearance, and they're very important all the way up into the new series.
Can't
Um,
wait.
and then we will watch all the way. We're going to try and get 3 episodes in again. So
Yeah.
we'll see Pertwee arrive. We'll see something where he's trapped on Earth, and then we'll see his departure after he's gotten control back of the TARDIS.
Yep, should be fun.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
We'll see you next time for Cine Pertwee.
I shall never forget him. Never.
No, of course you won't. But, you know, the memory of him won't always be a sad one.
I think it will. You can't understand being so ancient.
Eh?
I mean old.
Oh.
You probably can't remember your family.
Oh, yes, I can when I want to. And that's the point, really. I have to really want to bring them back in front of my eyes. The rest of the time, they sleep in my mind, and I forget. And so will you. Oh, yes, you will. You'll find there's so much else to think about, to remember. Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing. Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.